Hey YouTube, today I'm going to do a comparison of some 44 Magnums, and I'm doing this at the request of a viewer. Gentleman requested that I put a Colt, Smith and Wesson, and a Korth all on the table at one time and compare them all at the same time, side by side. So before I get started, I'm going to let you know that all these revolvers have been safety checked. There's nothing in them, and as I pick them up one by one, I will show you that they're not loaded. So we're going to get started with this Korth right here, and this is a Korth German-made 44 Magnum, and I'll show you there's nothing in that. This is a 4-inch configuration 44 Magnum. This is one of the finest revolvers in the world. This company was started in the 50s by a gentleman named Willie Korth, and his goal was to make one of the finest revolvers ever made. These are now distributed by Nighthawk Customs, and I'll show you the really close-up of it. It has the Nighthawk emblem on the side. It says Nighthawk Custom right here, and the only other markings on this revolver is it says 44 Magnum. On the other side, it says Korth, K-O-R-T-H, and there's been some confusion on how to pronounce that, but the actual German way to pronounce Korth is kind of like court, like you're going into a courtroom, but it is spelled K-O-R-T-H. And a lot of people don't understand that, and I'm not going to get too much into that. So this one is chambered in 44 Magnum, and when Willie Korth was alive, they never made a 44 Magnum. He was a 357 38 guy. And what they've done is, since he's passed on, he's no longer involved in the company, they have carried on his designs and everything, and they've developed this 44 Magnum, and boy is it awesome. So some of the features of this thing is same with the 357 Magnum. It has a little button here, and you can push on it and remove the cylinder from it very quickly. It has a 2-place lockup on each side, so each side of the cylinder, if you look in here, you'll see this little knob move. Well, this is spring loaded, and when this hits up against this ball, it pushes this in, and this part right here where my thumb is, it's inserted in here and it locks it into place. Then when you push that, it pushes out on this, which is spring loaded, and allows cylinder fall out. Very cool design. It has this ventilated red that resembles a Colt revolver and this full underlug on it, and it's actually a 2-piece barrel. So this is hammer forged stainless steel on the inside, and it has an outer sleeve that incorporates the fitted rib on top and the full underlug on it. The action works on this thing is exceptional, and it should be for what you have to pay for one of those. The double action pull is smooth all the way through, and it's probably about a 7.5 8 pound trigger on it. The single action is going to be 2.5 to 3 pounds on it, and there is a way to adjust the action if you remove these grips on it, but I'm not going to get into that today. But extremely well built. If you look at some of these close-ups of it, it's just the build quality is absolutely exceptional on this. One man has about 70 hours in building one of these one at a time, and they do not produce these like mass production on them. But as you can see on them, all the machine work, everything's all perfect. There's no tool marks or anything on it. It's just everything's perfect. We'll show you some of the forcing cone on it. It's just absolutely exceptional the way this thing is put together. So we're going to go next into an ultra vintage Smith and Wesson. So this is a Smith and Wesson 629. This is my 629-3 Classic Hunter, and this is when Smith and Wesson was at the top of their game, and this is an awesome piece, folks. This is all forged parts that goes into this. Forged frame, forged internals, trigger, hammer, everything's forged, and this one happens to be a square butt. This is what they call the 3Ts. So this one has a large, wide target hammer with serrations here on it. It has a large wide spurred hammer on it, and it has target grips on them. Now this is a special one. This is most of the 629s from this area came with a 6.5-inch barrel, and it had like a half underlug on them. This one here has the full underlug, and they shorten it to 6-inch, and it has a non-fluted cylinder in it, which makes it look really cool to me. Now this one came from the factory with like Packmeyer rubber grips on them, and I found a set of these old vintage in-frame Smith and Wesson factory walnut grips, and I put them on here, and I think it really dressed this gun up a lot. Mostly all the 629s from this era came with these grips on them, and I figured a gun that looked this pretty, why not put the same awesome grips on them? So that's what I did. So the close-ups of this, it says Smith and Wesson on the side. It has their insignia back here, and on the other side it says where it was made, and it says 44 Magnum right here on the side. So this is when they were at the top of their game, and as I mentioned, with all my Smith & Wesson revolvers, I take them to the same gunsmith, and I have action work done on them, and this thing is absolutely amazing, this action work. So the single action pull is right around 7 pounds. The double action pull. The single action pull is going to be about 2.5 pounds on it. It's just very crisp. There's no stacking involved in it. If you can see, it's just smooth all the way through. This is an awesome revolver, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. So look at some of the craftsmanship that goes into it, and Smith & Wessons do not seem to have the same kind of build quality as they did back in this time era. This gun was probably made in the late 80s, early 90s maybe. I don't know the exact year, but just an awesome piece of hardware here. And last but not least, we're going to compare that to a Colt Anaconda chambered in 44 Magnum. Now, I know when I did the side-by-side comparison with the Korth revolver, I used a 4-inch Colt Anaconda that I have, and I'm going to use a 6-inch one here because it matches the other 6-inch Smith & Wesson here. So this is a Colt Anaconda. This is the first newer model Anaconda that I got, and these things are absolutely amazing, folks. These new Colt revolvers are not hand fit. They are all made on CNC machines, and they are polished out on machines, and this is how they come. Now, this one came from the factory with rubber grips on them, just like the Smith did, and I put these laminate wood grips on them, and they are very wide. They fit my hands very well, and they're awesome. Now, there's been absolutely zero action work done to this one, and this action is absolutely probably the smoothest feeling one out of all of them. Out of all three of these, this one probably feels absolutely smoothest when you pull the hammer back. Now, with the double action, it is a little bit heavier than the Smith that I just showed you, but it is absolutely flawless going all the way through. There's no stacking on it whatsoever. The single action is right around 3 pounds. It's probably not 2.5. It's right around 3 pounds. And this double action is right around the 7.5 to 8 pound pull all the way back. That's from the factory. Now, this one has adjustable sights on the front and a red ramp on the front, and this rear sight has been replaced because I think that's one of Colt's shortcomings. I have installed a Wilson Combat rear sight on it because this one, when I got it, had a little bit of wobble on the inside, and I don't like the way the factory Colt adjustment is on them, so I put this Wilson Combat rear sight on it, and here's your sight picture now, folks. It is awesome. Now, the Colt, you have to pull on this cylinder release to pull out the cylinder, and a lot of people don't like that and aren't used to Colt firearms, so that doesn't bother me a bit. I have a lot of experience shooting Colt revolvers, so it is almost a muscle memory thing to pick this up and do it. If I'm holding this Smith & Wesson, you'll often see me, I've done it on camera, to reach back to pull it. This is a muscle memory thing. A lot of people think it's more intuitive. When you're done, push, empty, and empty it here. I'm bang, 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 bang. I just do it, empty it, put it back in, and I don't even think about it. So it's got a good size hammer on it, the Anaconda does, and there's straight serrations on it. And with my big hands, I can reach this. If I want to shoot single action on it, it's very easy for me to get to it. The Korth, the one problem I have with it is the size of this hammer. It's a little bit of a stretch to reach up and grab this hammer if I want to shoot single action, but it's not a deal breaker to me, folks. This thing is very awesome. The cylinder release, you just push on it when you're done, empty them out, put it back in and go, and it doesn't seem to slow you down a bit. So it's all about training, folks, and muscle memory. But I wanted to show you all three of these. I've compared the Anaconda to the Korth, and I've compared a Smith & Wesson 629 to the Korth, and now I have them all three here in front. Now, which one do I think is the best? if you go on build quality alone, I think the Colt's going to take it all together. But the amount of money that you spend on one of these, you pay for all that craftsmanship and hand fitting and everything like that. With the Smith was built in a time era where people actually cared about their job, and this thing is built excellent. But they didn't spend the time to slick the action up and make it the best feeling revolver in the world with the action. So I'm going to say no on this one, but it is easily corrected. As you can see how easily this action works on it. If you have a qualified, confident gunsmith, he can make this thing work just as good as any of these revolvers with just minimum effort. And with the Colt, this is a new age, new time, folks, and technology has caught up with the people that hand fit stuff. And this thing was all made on a CNC machine, and the design work that went into this thing is awesome straight from the factory. So I'm not going to give this one any negative marks on functionality and all that. I forgot to mention also they recess and crown the barrels on the Colts and make the sight very easy to remove on the newer one. So very awesome revolver, one of my favorite. When the Colt started remaking revolvers again a few years ago, this was the one I was waiting for, was a Colt Anaconda. As soon as they came out, I bought this 6-inch one, and I liked it so much. Like a year or so ago, they released a 4 1/4 inch one. I bought one of those too. So which one is the best? I would say in their present form right now, shootability, I think they're all about equal right now, and accuracy, the way the actions work and all that. And I'm taking out of account that there's been work done to some of them are straight from the factory, and I'm taking cost out. Now, which one do I think is the highest build quality? I think the Korth by far is the highest build quality out of all of them. Which one do I think second? I think these new Colts, just absolutely, they do a fantastic job, and they've figured out how to use technology to polish these things off, round all these corners off and everything. And do I think the Smith and Wesson is bad? I absolutely don't. I think this was one of the best Smith and Wesson time errors ever made, and it is very close between these two here, folks. Which ones I think are better? But build quality, this high dollar one is going to be a little bit better. But shootability, I think you're all about equal. And do I think that you can take any of these and do just as well as any of them? I absolutely do. There's no doubt in my mind. So anyway, folks, I wanted to show you a Korth Mongoose 44 Magnum versus a Smith and Wesson 44 Magnum versus a Colt 44 Magnum, and I was requested to show them all at the same time, show some of the little differences and similarities, and that's what I did. If you have any questions on each one of these, I have a video on each one of them explaining all the details on them. Thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.